I always thought that culture was just this fluffy thing, this feeling, and you couldn't really put your finger on it. There should be no question of what your why is in your company. If there is, you're not going to be able to build a culture.
Of everything I've ever done so far in the company, this to me has by far been the hardest thing. I wouldn't want to hire or work with anybody, and I would fire on this tenet that, hey, if we're sharing revenue numbers. Welcome back to the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting their successes and failures. Gary, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm really excited about today's episode.
Yeah, I am stoked because we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. I've got some really cool updates since we spoke last time. For Gary and I, it's only been it's been the weekend. We filmed, I think, on Friday. Yeah. It's only been the weekend, but a lot has happened since we had that talk. You guys haven't seen it. If you didn't watch it yet, go check it out. Episode 4 of the 8-Figure Agency Show. In it, I got really vulnerable. Gary got a lot of stuff out of me that episode that I was kind of keeping up inside that I didn't want to kind of admit, and I admitted it. And since then, literally the second I hung up from filming with Gary, I made some radical changes that day, which I was super stoked about, and I'll get into in a minute. So doubling down, investing, removing myself as a bottleneck. Literally the second we hung up, I went and I completely redid all the numbers for the business, went to my QuickBooks, said, okay, I have this much, here's what I have to play with, said, okay, this person deserves more, I doubled down, gave them more, promoted people, did all this stuff, changed a bunch of stuff around. And I'm really, really excited because I gave people the opportunity to do what you said, which is let them take ownership and just let them go do stuff. And so we're starting that this week, and I'm really excited for that. Hired another video editor, so we're growing the team that way.
You found the video editor? Okay, great.
Yeah, so we had one of my team members, first team member ever, Kyle, was a legend. He actually edits for the show, so shout out Kyle. He referred someone that he knows, and it was a perfect fit. So he's going to be starting for us next Monday, which I'm really excited about. Young guy, 19 years old, like me. And so he's super hungry, ready to go. So I really am really excited. I also have really good news for you and thankful for you because this came from the mastermind. Got another client. Shout out Charles from SUEG. So we partnered up. We're going to work together and, going to blow up his podcast as well. A lot of crazy stuff happened just in the 3 days since, we last spoke. But today, Gary, I've got some questions for you around culture, right? Company culture. And like I said, as I grow and scale my team, culture is really important. Because for me, I really want to make a culture where people know that I'm letting them fail, that I am paying them to fail so that we can grow and we can innovate. So I want to, turn the mic over to you. What are your thoughts on culture and what could you share?
Yeah, I think in the space that you're in, the culture is even more important because you have to have innovation. You have to have people who are constantly changing and coming up with the new trends. I mean, every time you guys edit a video for us, I'm like, ooh, I haven't seen that before. And they start working in new things. And that's huge, but that doesn't come easily, right? That's usually the founder or the owner who's making those risky calls. And so if you can build out a culture that allows for that innovation early on, that'll be great. And then there's going to come times where you're going to need more stability and not as much risk taking, but that'll come later. Right now, I just heard a phrase recently, it's cloud culture. And I think that's where we're at as a society, especially after COVID, is where people didn't really work remote before. It was very clunky. It was really hard. Basically, if someone was going to work from home, it was just kind of going to be, they're going to go work on an island and they might get stuff done. They might not. But now we have cloud culture, and that's where everybody is somewhere else and you're collectively working together for a common goal. And when you do that, you actually create an arbitrage of talent. You can hire anywhere in the world. You create an arbitrage of time. You can have somebody working around the clock on your business. You also create an arbitrage of just different minds and different ways of thinking culturally and just different approaches to unique problems. And that's huge. And so if you can take advantage of that, I'm really, really big on that. We were actually had a cloud culture before COVID, and we went right into the pandemic already set up for the pandemic, not really knowing it. That was just kind of dumb luck, but it worked out great for us. So a couple things that you want to be able to do is, first of all, you want to be able to measure your culture. I always thought that culture was just this fluffy thing. So it was this feeling, and you couldn't really put your finger on it, and you try to make people feel good, and you try to make them heard, and then you try to apply their ideas. That's really a bad way. It's much more reactive to culture. What I believe culture is you need to have a way to measure it. And what we use is a weekly check-in with every single team member. So every team member is getting a weekly 30-minute meeting minimum. And in that, before that meeting, they're submitting their pulse score. And then we talk about what the pulse score means. The pulse score it's 5 points. So if you're a 5, you're feeling amazing. If it's 4, you're really good. 3 is subpar. 2 is horrible, and 1 couldn't be worse. And then here's the key, and I think this is the key for a cloud culture. You have to say, hey, this is for your personal life and your work life. And people disagree with me on this, but if you're working in your bedroom, tell me how you separate work life and home life. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. Yeah. You're not. Yeah. You're literally working in your home. So if your kid is sick in the other room, or you just got, your Wi-Fi went out at your mom's house or whatever, like that impacts you. You have to now go work at a coffee shop or something like that. So I want to know when people are having those problems, because we want to be able to support our team. We want to come in and be able to help them. So we want to know how you're feeling personally and professionally as a human being. How are you doing? That's the first way that we measure culture. The second way that we measure culture is through our ENPS. So we just had our ENPS. We do it every 6 months, and it was an 82, which is like stupid high. It's very, very high for a marketing agency. And it's really hard to get a company of our size, we have over 80 team members, to an ENPS score of that high. And the reason that we can do that, I believe, is because every week we're testing it. Every week I'm pushing to how do we make things better. So here's some of the framework that we use around that. Number 1 is if someone is a 3 or below, I'm personally checking on them and their managers. Hey, what's going on? What can we do to help them? And everybody knows that. So everybody knows that this is going to bring support when you need it. And we never get on people about it. If someone's like, I'm just having a hard day, and it's just, I just don't feel it today. That's okay. Maybe we'll send them like a Starbucks that day, or we'll send them, DoorDash them something that day because they're not feeling it. Right. We've had people who are like, my wife's cousin's mom just died, but my wife was really close to them. And so she's super bummed out, and that's kind of getting on me. So we'll send a plant to her, or flowers to her, and say, hey, thinking about you, praying for your family, those kind of things. So we're constantly always just thinking about people and trying to let them know that we're thinking about them. And I think that's a big part of what we've built. Now, some of the other things that we do is we set meetings that have nothing to do with work. So every week I have a meeting. We call it Coffee Talk. The only rule in it is we're not allowed to talk about work. And anybody's allowed to come. It's just the same time every week after our team meeting. Different people come. We usually end up talking about food and vacations and things like that. Like sometimes we talk about conspiracy theories, like whatever, anything that's not work, right? And then we have game nights. Then we have trivia. Then we have, we have all these different things that we do that bring people together. I think that's really, really important to build culture. And a couple other things that we do is we do a newsletter that goes out to the team every single month. We highlight things in there. And then we really hyper focus on our core values and our why. So our why is always growing. Simple. But we have an order to it. Number 1, our team has to always be growing. And I don't mean numerically. I mean they have to always be growing as a person. And we support that however we can. Training, activities, like whatever we can do to support that. If you're not growing, there's a problem. And I let people know that if you're stagnant, that's a problem. You're not going to like it here for very long. Number 2, our clients always have to be growing. Their teams and their companies always have to be growing. If we're not doing that, then we're losing. And then number 3 is the company by default, not by decree, by default. If our team's growing, the clients are always growing, then our company, the entity, will always be growing as well. And so far, that's worked for us. So then what we do is then we drive home our core values. So our core values are what allow us to operate and communicate. That is the culture. So our why is our direction, and then the culture itself are the core values. So we highlight those in a couple different ways. Number 1, we have a Slack channel for high fives. And that is just for any time someone's living out their core values. It's packed every day. There's probably 10, 20 posts in there every single day of just people going high five to this person, high five to this person, and they call out the core value. Number 2, before our team meeting, we do core value call outs. Same thing, but just verbally, right? Hey, I want to call out, Derek, he's been killing it. I emailed him something. I needed it last second. I knew he probably couldn't get it to me, but he was proactive and he responded to me. He over communicated. So thank you for living our core values, right? So we do that every time. And then every team meeting, we created this little culture recognition. And what it is every team meeting, we broke the team into 8 different teams. And that each team's responsible for nominating somebody who's living the core values that week. And I don't care how they nominate. They can rotate, they can vote, they could draw straws. Like, I don't care how they do it. That's up to the team. We randomly put those teams together. They're not used to working with each other, right? And that was done on purpose. And then each week they have to vote. There's a blind vote for who is out of the people. So there's 8 people every week, one from each team. Who's exhibiting the core values out of this group. They win a gift card for like $100 to Amazon, but then they're entered into a bigger pool. And then every week, the out of the 4 weeks, one of those people are voted for to win for the month. And they win $200 or like half a day off. They get to pick. And then the monthly people compete to go up to the quarterly winners. And they win even a bigger prize or more time off. And we let them pick. You can either have money on a gift card or you can have time off and just, take time off. And then the quarterly winners are, and this is all picked by the team. I don't pick any of this. I have nothing to do with this. The leaders don't have anything to do with this. This is just the team. And then the quarterly winners, they are, they compete for the year. And the yearly winner gets like, I think $2,000 or $2,500 for like a Visa gift card and like a week off or 5 days off
awesome.
to go take a vacation. So, and then next year we'll reset it, right? So we'll finish this year and then next year we'll reset it.
I love that. I got to tell you, so that was a lot of really, for me, right? Because being in a different position, I think for a lot of the people listening right now, right? And this is going to lead into something you brought up to me the other day that I'm going to bring up in just a moment. But it was really high level stuff there, right? Like that's the goal. What you just described there, like having the team being able to create, their own kind of, prize systems and a system like that where they can, nominate themselves. Like to me, that is the dream, and having the ability to have all of these things in place. But, as an entrepreneur who still basically has a hand in every single part of the business, tactically, right? I can't go from 0 to 100, and most people listening can't either. So how do you, Gary, my question to you would be this: how do you put the systems and the people in place to systemize culture and grow it?
Let's just go through it one by one. So number 1 is, what is your why? Do you have a why yet?
I do, but I don't have it written down, which is a really big problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. So your why should be written down. It should be on your website. It should be part of every sales call. It should be part of every meeting. You should start every meeting with it. Your why needs to be talked about every single day, every single week. Be written everywhere. Like, write that down. There should be no question of what your why is in your company. If there is, you're not going to be able to build a culture. Like, it's going to be whoever the loudest voice is going to build the culture. Now, when you're a smaller team, if I have 5 people, it's easier to convey that message even without saying it. So you might think like, no, the team gets it, but that's really because you're touching all of them all the time and you're living it.
Yeah. So then my question for you, Gary, would be then, how do you determine your why? Because for me, right, and it's written on the website, it's to help busy creators and podcasts repurpose their content through the power of short form video. That's our why. That right there is the why. But I don't start meetings with it, and I'm not sure.
So I think that's your what.
Okay. So then what's the difference?
So what you do is a huge different than why you do it. So why we do what we do is so we can always keep growing. But what we do is dental marketing. Right? So you guys, so that's your what, which is really good. But and this is hard. This is harder for young people. It took me a while to figure this out, because this is actually my why personally too. Everything that I do, I want to, anytime when people are like, hey, will you donate your time to go help with this? Or will you go do this? First thing I look at is, how am I going to help people grow through this? Right? Like that's the lens that I look through everything. And if it's not going to grow, I don't want to mess with it. Like I don't have time for it. Right? Like I don't want to go and invest into something that's going to be stagnant on any level. So everything. That's my why around everything. So why did you start a company? So let's just start like rapping about this, right? So like, why did you start your company?
Freedom.
Okay.
Definitely.
So why freedom? Why do you want freedom?
Originally really to do the things that I wanted whenever I wanted, not be bogged down by a certain schedule. When I had to do something for somebody else, I could do it for myself and help others grow around me.
Okay, so freedom, and then having the opportunity to do the things that you want to do. Why is that important to you?
That's a really good question. It's really important to me because I know that in 80 years, when I look back, I want to be able to say I did everything that I've ever wanted to do, and I didn't have to not do it because of something, right? Because of a boss or something else. Having the luxury of running my own company, I'm able to determine the things that are truly important to me, like I am doing right now, and prioritize those things.
Got it. And how can that transfer over to your team? Because your team does have a boss, right? So you could frame it as our why is to create freedom. And how do we create freedom? We create freedom by allowing those to do what they love and what they're passionate about. So we only want to work with people who are passionate about what they do. And then we give you the freedom to do that. And then when you outgrow us, you move on to the next thing where we're your biggest fans. Like that, it could be something like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I like that a lot, and I think I had a really good thought. I'm going to get it out there to the world and keep myself accountable. I think that the perfect why for me would be to help everybody realize their full potential and to get to the point where they're doing the things that they want to do in life. To exactly like you said, have that freedom to do the things that they want to do, but more importantly, realize what those things are. Now, that was long.
Yeah. No, it's too long. Yeah, but you can narrow it down now. So freedom to reach your full potential. That's it. So that's our why. Let's just go with that. Now, how did we arrive at that? I'm going to back up for the listeners, right? So we arose at that conclusion because I kept asking why. That's all I did. That's all you have to do to discover your why. Why do you want that? Well, I want to be rich. Okay, why do you want to be rich? Well, I want to be rich so I can buy a new car. Why do you want to buy a new car? Well, I want to buy a new car so people think of me this way. Okay, why do you want people to think of you this way? So then I can have more influence. Why? Why do you want more influence? So that way I can, start a shelter in Africa to feed homeless people. Oh, okay, there's your why, right? Like it's a long road around, but that's how you get to the core of your why is by asking why over and over and over again. So now that we got our why, freedom to reach our full potential, right? That's our why. And that's true for your clients too, right?
Yeah.
You want them to have the freedom to reach their full potential, and if they're video editing, they're not reaching their full potential, right?
Yep.
So it's true for everybody, right? And that's a really good why. And if people buy why you do what you do more than what you do, okay? Really important. Yep. So that's this. You document it, you engrave it, you put it everywhere. This is everything that you touch. This is why we do what we do. Now, what are the core values that we have around that? How do we build out core values around that?
Yeah. This is funny, and I know you're familiar with this book. I was reading the book Traction before, and I'm a little bit into it. This is exactly what they were doing, and it was when I got like maybe 100 pages in, and I just stopped reading it because this stuff to me was so difficult. Of everything I've ever done so far in the company, this to me has by far been the hardest thing. But
so let's go through it because I actually really struggled with this when I first started doing it too. But we just made it simple, right? Like we have people who helped us make it simple. And so I'm going to help you make it simple. So I'm just going to give you our core values. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now these are a little bit basic. Like I would say that these are too basic of words. We're working on changing them to be more in the way that we would talk inside the company, but they're fully ingrained in our company. So number one is ownership. And then we put little statements with it. So fostering ownership is powerful and can mean the difference between just a job and a purpose. So you have to, if someone doesn't display ownership, we're going to have a hard time working with them. And let me just define this too. Your core values are how you hire, fire, and promote.
Yeah.
That's it. This is the core of the company, right? Okay, self-awareness. It opens the door and enables us to keep growing. Over communication. Now, this one for me, if you're a cloud culture, meaning you're not in an office, I think communication of some portion has to be part of your core values. And the reason I believe that is basically you can sweep anything under a rug for a little bit of time in a remote company and people won't notice until things like really blow up. So like over communication is huge for us. And then resourcefulness. Success is not about your resources. It's about how resourceful you are with what you have. So I'm always big when people email me questions that they could have Googled. I'm just like, where could you find this information?
Yeah.
Okay, our core value is resourcefulness. You're not being resourceful right now because you're spending my time for something that you could have Googled, right? Okay, proactiveness. A proactive approach is the only approach. I tell people, like, if you see a problem, you have to over communicate about that. You have to go and start bringing it up. You cannot just ignore it. That is not acceptable, right?
Yeah.
And then we added this one recently, like in the last couple years, relationship based. We value relationships over transactions.
I like that. No, I like that.
Okay, so those are our core values. So what are some values that for you are non-negotiable? Now, I will say this. Honesty is not it is a non-negotiable, but it's a bar of entry, right? No one in the world is like, I want to hire the dishonest people. Right?
Of course,
So honest
stuff.
Yeah, so you assume, hey, we can't work together unless we're honest. So those aren't core values, right? Integrity or, those kind of things. So what are some things for you that you have to be successful in your company?
Yeah, number one, and this is already written in our team chat and everything, is radical communication. So, you called it over communication. We call it radical communication. And it's as simple as that. Communicate everything at every point so that everybody's on the same team, or on the same page rather, and knows what's happening. That's definitely number one, radical communication. The rest of them, I have ideas in my head, but it's hard to contextualize them into one word, right? That's where it gets a little bit difficult for me so that I can present it like this. But throwing out some ideas, right? It really would be, besides radical communication, people focused. To me, that's really important because I think if you're people focused, then you're going to be focused on yourself and on the client and on everything involved and just being a human, right? Because I really believe that businesses, like successful businesses, are run on people. Like, it's just knowing how to be a good person and treating people right.
Yeah. So some ways that you could say that is like, and they don't have to be one word. Sometimes the best ones are like short slogans, right? So it's like you could say people over business. We say it relationships over transactions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You could say people first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
How many words or terms or phrases would you say you recommend to really do it in a concise way to present what your why is and what your culture is?
Yeah, so I think it should be, if I could go back and do mine over again, I would do it with words that we communicate with, right? So if you say radical communication, like if that's the way you guys talk on your team, then that's great, right? Like, but no one like ownership, we talk that way. Self-awareness, over communicate, like that's not something we normally say. Relationship based, probably not something that we say a lot, right? So we could we could put people first there. So that's just, they're things that you already say and that your people say. And this is more for your team. This isn't for the outside necessarily. But you really want to make sure that it's something that's going to stick in their brain, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. No, see, that's perfect. I think what I'm going to do, is not think, I know, is keep myself accountable, provide values. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to, first of all, pick up traction again, because I think I need to reread that, because this is a lot of the same information, which means it's true. And I'm going to really come next week with this all written out, like a full, values all written out.
So let's assume that that's done, right? So now here's your next step, because we're walking through how to do all the high level stuff that we just talked about. So what's your why? Now you have your core values. And then what I would recommend to you, Derek, is get your core values and get your team's input. Get them involved. And you are the final one that says yes or no, right? But like say, hey guys, I would love for you guys to all to submit one core value that we should have. And that will solidify your team. That'll bring the team together, because if it's their core value as well as your core value, then they're going to rally around that, right? And then before you say these are our core values, say, guys, are these our core values? Like, is this what we believe? Especially at the size that you're at right now, it's perfect time to do that. And then now the next step after that is every week to figure out how to talk about it 3 to 4 times a week. So like I said, in your team meeting, all right, guys, let's do core value call outs. I'm going to go first. Derek's been killing it. He's been really proactive and getting back to me. on XYZ, and then have everybody go through and say everybody has to do one, right? And then have a Slack channel like I talked about, and call it high five or call it whatever you want, but have a way that people can drop those and be thankful for people living out the core values. And then from there, you also want to make sure that you have some every week, like in your team meeting, I would go over all your core values and have them defined, and then tell them why these are so important. Like do a lesson on them once a week for the next 5 weeks, go over those. And so what I do in our team meetings, every week, I'm either going over our core values or I'm going over what the team does. And then when the team's done going over what they do, I go back to the core values. And then when I'm done going over the core values, I go back to what the team does. And then when I'm done, back and forth, I've been doing this for years. And the reason is that's so important, we're remote. Like I don't actually know what Johnny does because he's like 7 departments over, right, on the org chart. Yeah. So it's like I keep having Johnny come back and tell us, here's what Johnny does now. It's changed a lot. We've really grown. And so that way we can ultimately what you want, Derek, there's one thing you want. You want alignment. You want, that's the most important thing. Are we aligned? That's the only way to move to get together.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Okay, so sounds like step 1, figure out your why. How do you figure out your why? It's as simple as literally just keep asking yourself why. You want to make more money? Why do you want to make more money? And Gary explained it perfectly. You want to make more money to buy new cars? Why do you want to buy new cars? You want people to see you a certain way? Why do you want people to see you a certain way? Just keep breaking it down till you get to that core, one-liner, few words of, hey, why do you want to do everything that came before it? And then step 2, like you said, is, share that, share that with the world, with your team more specifically, right? How do you do that? Team meetings, go over it, give these presentations. But so now you have your why, you got your team aligned, like you said. What's that next step to where you can get to that high level culture building process?
And then from there, you want to be meeting with your teams every week, figure out what their goals are, figure out who they are as people, and then help them work towards that.
Got it. So okay. So now you have your why. You're meeting with your people, and you're reiterating, and you're getting aligned on your why. And then, as a leader, your responsibility is to, little by little, not weed out is not the right way to say it, but to really help the people who are not necessarily aligned with your why, those who are out of alignment, find better roles elsewhere, or help them, in different places in different ways.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can't have a good culture if you're not aligned.
Yeah,
you can't. Even if you're trying. Because I'm going this direction, you're going this direction. So it's just, and you can't get aligned unless you have, someone says, this is who we are. Because your brain tells you this is who we are, and it has an image over here, and someone else's brain has a different image. And so you guys are naturally pulling away. Maybe one person is going with them over there, and the other person's going with the other person over there. But you are pulling from each other. And this is what creates misalignment. And you have to get to the core of that, and that's your job. Like that is your job as the founder to define that.
Yeah. And look, I do want to say one thing, because for me, I know that if I was a little bit earlier on in the journey, then this would be what I would be thinking about. And this is all I would have been able to think about this entire episode, as a listener. If you're just getting started, I wouldn't worry too much about company culture. I'm 7-8 months into this part of the business. I've been doing this for well over 2 years, and this kind of, where I'm at now fostered itself over the last 6-7 months. I haven't really given company culture more than a back thought, right? Or as an afterthought until now, until I'm at 5, or I think I'm at 6 or 7 team members now. And now I'm okay, I just had a team meeting, which was for me pretty surreal because it was so much fun for me. And, seeing all these people, because we are remote, like Gary's company, at my company. And so when I get to bring everybody together and we all get to see each other, especially introducing, new hires, it's a great time for the company. But I love your thoughts on this, Gary. I don't think you need to be focused on company culture right now. If you're just starting out, you got to focus on what matters, which is not scaling, but getting sales, right? That's all
sales,
that matters. That's it. Getting sales.
Well, and also if it's just you, then you are the culture, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of culture to go and start building yet because it's just you. Now, if once you add a person, it's really easy to build culture. If it was just me and one other person and we're hanging out all the time, we're going to lunch, you're building culture, whether you like it or not. You're building some kind of culture. And usually it's going to be good culture because you're both aligned with it. You both love it. You're both energized and you're in it all the time. But when you start adding complexity to it and adding more people, it gets harder and harder. So you have to think about it and you have to know about this. This is we got the $300,000 a month in recurring revenue with no focus on culture, like literally zero. Our culture strategy was isolation. Just keep everybody apart. Don't let them fight. And that's like just silo everybody. But guess what? That also became our bottleneck. We couldn't grow I was just like bumping my head like, why can't we grow? And it's because I couldn't get everybody aligned. And why couldn't we get everybody aligned? Because there was no culture. I didn't have core values. I didn't have any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and look, we're not saying, and I hope it doesn't come across where the culture isn't important, but if you're starting out, you just got to sell. All you got to do is sell. Just sell. Like, I talk to so many people, especially now since starting this show. Like, they'll DM me. I'll get a text out of nowhere, like just random stuff. Hey, starting an agency, I'd love to know that. And I'm like, no, just stop right. Just go. Do you have a client? Do you have anything? Just go sell. When you did and you have 5-6 clients and you're doing this and you have a couple team members, come back to me and we can have a conversation on like culture and stuff like that. But so, that's for somebody just starting out. But what about somebody who might be, one of our listeners who might be a little bit further along, right? Further along than me, and they kind of have a culture established, but they don't like it, where it's failing them, it's failing the business, and they come to work unhappy. How do you fix that?
Yeah, you just go through the process that I literally just described. So number one is, what are your core values? What is your why? More than likely what's happened, Derek, if someone has those things, they've allowed people to hijack them and not live up to them. So funny story, I had somebody who was like in our company that would really help me solidify a lot of this stuff. And then they kind of hijacked the culture and then they stopped living it, right? Like they stopped living the core values. And I called them out on it. I was like, you're not being proactive. You're not da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And they got really mad and like caused a lot of negative, and a lot of negative people in our company. And it took a long time to clean that out. It does not fix easy when you have that, but you can fix it and just own it. Like for me, I own the culture numbers. Those are my numbers. I have to report on those every single week in our team meeting and explain why they are the way that they are. And then that's every week we just get a little bit better. Sometimes we go backwards a little bit, just like any number, but it's a hyper focus. We start every meeting, every team, like leadership meeting. We don't start with revenue. We start with where are we at culturally, because I think that's the base on how you build everything.
No, I like that a lot. And hey, I have a side question for you just real quick about something like revenue. And this really ties well with, company culture, a transparent leader, a transparent business, right? How open should you be, especially at the stage I'm at, about company revenue? Should I just be willing to share it whenever with whoever, or should I be like restricted with who knows the numbers? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good question. So we struggled with this for a long time. So what I have found works best is you communicate the numbers to the team and you tell them because the numbers are your levers, right? So number of new sales, your pulse score of your team, your revenue, all that kind of stuff. So you want those numbers all documented. You want them on a line graph, and then you want somebody owning those numbers. Who owns each of those numbers? And then they report to them. So then right now with your team, you'd probably just want to have it in the team meeting, but eventually you're going to build a leadership team and you're going to say, okay, you own company culture, you own revenue, you own sales, and all of them feed into each other. And you have to have clarity on those. And then in the team meeting, we share the same numbers. So we go right into the team meeting and share with them. Now, sometimes people think, here's probably what you think because you're a younger entrepreneur. I thought the same thing. Well, if I show people how much money we're making, they're going to think we're rich. Well, that's one way to look at it. They also, if you show them how much money you're making, they might think, wow, this is a secure company. Yeah, I don't have to worry about my job, right? So no one at Apple's like, Apple makes too much money. They're like, no, I have a secure job. I don't have to worry about getting laid off if the market takes a turn, right? Yeah. And so you can tell yourself whatever story you want. It's all on how you frame it. So it's like, guys, we're doing really good. We're growing. And now we get to hire more people. We get to get more raises. Once I get to this point, then we can do this and this and this. So it gives people, you're all working collectively towards a number rather than just you working towards a number and them doing random tasks inside of this silo that doesn't really know where it's going.
Yeah. And one thing that sticks out to me, and again, it really has to do with culture, right? Because now for me, I'm really at a point where every decision I'm making, can't believe I don't have this, my why and all this done yet. So this is going to be my task, my homework, so to speak, before we film next episode next week. But, I wouldn't want to work with anybody. Like, I wouldn't want to hire or work with anybody. And I would fire on this tenant that, hey, if we're sharing revenue numbers and you're not, understanding that that's not like my money. Like, if the company's making 30,000, that's not profit, and that's not how that works. Like, I wouldn't want to be working with somebody like that who's like, oh, the company's rich. Oh, why don't I make more money? That's not how that works.
I've never had that. I've never had that happen.
Really? Not one person.
Mm-mm.
See, that's a big worry for me. Like, that really is. I've seen it at least when I was younger.
That's a story. Like, so here's the thing. And this is a good framework. I had a coach teach me this. When you have a story in your head because of one thing that happened one time, then you just say, hey, this is the story that I'm thinking of. But it's maybe not true. It could be this. It could, I've never had that happen. In fact, everybody gets really happy as the company grows.
I like that. See, that was really, it was a big worry for me. And when we first started, I was so hesitant. I was like, I can't tell anybody how much we're doing. Like, I wasn't even willing to share, like, hey, here's how much we charge. Like for some of the video, I was like, I wasn't even sharing that information. But no, that's really valuable to me. I think for me, right, it's really important to lay out this why, lay out the company, so I can have these tenants clear so that I know, hey, here's who I'm hiring, why I'm hiring them. Because, I know all of that, but it's me doing everything, right? Like, I'm still in that position, right? And I'm sure that a lot of people listening are in that position too. Like, in your head what you want and why you're doing certain things. And really the value in this episode is getting clear on it, but putting it in writing. That way, when you eventually bring somebody on to fulfill this role for you, so you could, step back, right? They'll know, hey, here's why we're hiring this person. Hey, here's why we're firing. Or, hey, this person's slacking because of they're not, doing the radical communication part of the core values. And that to me is really resonating. I'm going to go back to the drawing board, get that all written out, and, put that on paper. But I guess connecting it all together, right? You explained a really perfect 3-step process on how to systemize culture. Get clear on your why, put that out everywhere, communicate that to the team, and then really use your skills to see and kind of be an eagle or a hawk and see who is doing what, when, why, and are they living up to the core values. That's that 3-step process to systemizing company culture. But there's a couple things you mentioned tactically that I'd love to touch on, like ENPS scores, right? And how this all gets built out. What are your tips and what do you say around that stuff? Where do I get an ENPS? How do I measure that and all that stuff?
Yeah, so you want to get an HR platform. So like Bamboo or Bamboo HR or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's tons of other ones. And inside of them, they have a function where they can send a blind test. And then you just set it up every 6 months. You send that out. And then as far as like the pulse score, we use 15Five is a really good software. And might be a little bit expensive or cost prohibitive where you're at right now. But I would just use some kind of spreadsheet or something like that at your size, and then just make sure that you're documenting it every single week. What's your pulse score? How are you feeling this week?
All right. And so I do team meetings, right? Because for me, and this might be something a lot of people are thinking of, when you said weekly team meetings, I hear a lot of information online like, hey, you can't do weekly team meetings, they're bad, let the team focus on what they need to do. So I moved to a monthly team meeting and bi-weekly one-on-one check-ins. Should I move to a weekly team, like every Monday all hands, and then a weekly check-in?
Your weekly check-ins should be every week, like
week, one-on-one or team
one-on-one meeting? No, one-on-one weekly check-ins. So those are one-on-one, because that allows you to make sure that they're moving in the direction that you want them to move, right? So you should have a clear KPI. And this is another big thing that we didn't touch on. Get it super clear on your KPIs of winning and losing. That's really at the core what culture is that we're winning together. So defining winning and losing, I think that's really important. I think that should be high on your list. And then every week in your one-on-one, let's go over that. What is winning? What is losing? And are we winning or are we losing? And if we're losing, how do we do less of that? And if we're winning, how do we do more of that, right? And in which way are we progressing? Are we progressing up or down? Now, the team meetings, I think they should be every week, but our team meetings are like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. They're not hour long. Yeah, they're quick. And I mean, we go over everything. So we go over our why. We go over a department. Right now, we're presenting what each department does. So each person does a presentation. We also do a recognition of whoever won the core value awards, and then we do a dad joke at the end, And then we share all the numbers too. We go over all the numbers for the company. That's like 15 minutes. It's like it doesn't have to be this long, boring thing that everybody hates, and tie in something fun to it, right? Like tie in recognition, tie in things that people actually want to know, like who's going to win this week. And that's huge. I think you have to do that every week. You can do monthly if you want, but you're not going to be able to get the information into their brains that you have to get into their brains the way that you need to. It's just, you have too many core values. Your why's too vague to them mentally, and you have too many goals to meet once a month.
Got it. Yeah. So really get clear on the why, put it into maybe some sort of presentation or PDF or something, and then every week meet really quickly and just go over that every week, throw in something fun in there. Is that a time to, touch on company goals? Like, is that a time to say, hey, this is what everyone's focused on this week?
Yep.
Is that, yeah, it is?
Yeah, we're all, yeah, it's really good to have like one main thing that you're pulling towards all the time. So everybody can have their KPI and everybody can have goals, but there's one thing that we're all working towards, and just getting hyper fixated on that and getting everybody pulling in that direction is super powerful.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see. I'll tell you from my perspective right now, for me, I'm so team focused, like every single day. It's just, what can I do to improve the team? And I, honestly, part of it is really selfish, because I'm thinking, 6 to 12 months down the line, I'm like, hey, I want to invest and focus so much on the team so that in the event when I have to step away for a week, or I want to go on vacation or something like that, right? And I don't, because I love what I do. But when I want to step back for whatever reason or have to, then my team can hold down the fort. Right. And, when we had our team meeting last week, I had to give them props, because took family. We went out to a day fishing trip, and the team held down the fort. I was MIA the entire day. I let them know in advance. And it was like, I almost cried. Like, I'm not even kidding. I almost cried when I came back. It was like 3 p.m., turned my phone back on, and I saw that they were communicating with each other without me. That was like the moment I realized, like, whoa, I could.
You're building a team. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I was like, this is insane to me, insane. And that's that led me to eventually talk with you and realize I was being the bottleneck, right? And I think if you guys didn't listen again to episode 4, I highly recommend you do, because this all connects really, really well. This is kind of the next step up. But you come to realize, at least where I'm at, that like, okay, I'm the bottleneck. And oftentimes, whether that's the money or, the way you communicate with the team or lack thereof of the communication, just a million different factors, you could be the main reason why your agency is not scaling. And you might be going online and looking up, or even listening to this show and trying to find that one thing that's going to be the key to scaling your agency. But the one thing you're missing is that you might be the key, right? You're the roadblock. You're the thing or the person in the way of letting your team do what's needed.
I made a post that said you either are, will be, or have been the bottleneck in your company. If you're the leader.
I saw that. Yep.
It's exactly. I believe that. So true. Like, it's 100%. I've been there. I was the bottleneck big time.
Yeah, it's so true. And I do want to mention, and this is a little bit different, but I think it's really important to touch on this, because often Gary and I will talk about some high level stuff. Like, I'm bringing things that I'm experiencing, that I'm going through, and he's picking it apart and helping me, sharing his insight. I really hope that it's helping you guys, right? Because whether you're also at $20 million a year, or whether you're just starting out, or whether you're at $20,000 a month like me, you got to, there's a lot of stuff here that could help you, and you could just pick what sounds right for you and put it in. Because at the end of the day, this is your business, and you have your own journey that you're going on. But with that in mind, I've been thinking about this a lot, especially since I was younger, for like the last half a decade, honestly. You shouldn't feel pressured, especially listening to us here, to do this. Like, if having a team isn't for you, and you want to run an agency that's like you and one other person, and you're comfortable making $5,000 to $10,000 a month in profit, and this doesn't apply to you. Like, you don't really need to know how to build a team. You don't need to know all this fancy stuff and all that. And yeah, like, and you're agreeing that, to me, there's a lot of times when I see people online that don't say that. Like that's a big disclaimer. Yeah. You don't have to do this.
That's self-awareness, right?
Exactly.
So and now the thing that nobody talks about though on that side too is that if you build a small team and you have 1 or 2 people that are helping you, and they're maybe contractors, that's super free, right? Like, you can come and go as you please. You don't have stress, but there is still stress. There's always stress. And so the stress now comes when you lose that one client that makes up 70% of your revenue. You now don't have money, and you have to become now a sales machine. If you're good with that part of it, then that's where you should be. But if you're like, oh, I don't like the way that sounds super, to me, that sounds super stressful. That sounds way more stressful than what I'm dealing with. What I'm dealing with is harder, but not more stressful, right? Because the money's going to keep rolling in, because we've built so many accounts now that we're in a safer place. No one's safe.
Yep.
Nothing's 100%, but
Yep.
we're in a safer place financially. It's harder to navigate 80 team members, but I would much rather be in this harder position trying to figure this out than trying to make a sale every single month just to make sure that I have money to feed myself.
Yeah, and it's all hard. Everything you're gonna do is difficult. Like if you want to go the route that I'm going, and we're getting to get to the point where Gary's at down the line, right? It's hard, right? It is very, very difficult. And I'm sure Gary has a lot of stories that we might get into one day about how difficult things could get, right? And I'm sure I will go through those times as well. But there's an interesting thing that I heard recently. It was like a concept called pick your hard, where it's going to be hard. And this was about losing weight. Like it's difficult to be overweight, but it's also difficult to lose weight. Pick your hard, right? Pick your hard. It's hard to do both. It's hard to be overweight. It really is. Pick your hard. You want to lose weight or do you want to stay heavy?
And what's the benefit, right? Like what's the benefit? So the benefit of not losing weight is I don't have to try very hard right now. What's the downside? The downside is you're probably going to die earlier, right? You're going to live a shorter life and you're going to be in pain a lot. What's the upside of losing weight and being in shape? Well, I'm probably going to live longer and I'm probably going to feel better. And what's the downside? Well, I have to be super disciplined in putting in time to exercise and what I'm putting into my body. And there's pros and cons to everything. I mean, you could look at anything and look at pros and cons.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. Look, take everything everybody tells you, even us, with a grain of salt.
Yep.
Right? You're living your own life. You're going on your own journey. Take bits and pieces from everywhere. I heard that one time on a podcast, and that resonated with me a lot. Just because somebody you listen to religiously or somebody whose opinion you value says something doesn't mean you have to take that to the bank. Take everything you hear and see with a grain of salt and really ask yourself, how can I apply this, or do I even want to apply this to my life based on what you want to accomplish and what you want to do? Even the things that Gary and I say and talk about. That's all I have for today. And really, I mean, to sum it up really quickly, guys, culture, super important. If you want to get to this point, super important. I'm going to do everything that we discussed and come back to you guys in a week, share with you what I've done, my company values. In fact, next week, I want to come to you guys here with a presentation that says, hey, here's my company values and all that. Probably won't present it, but I want to make sure that I have that. Gary, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about what you're building. We're working on some things too that I'm excited about. I can't talk about them right now, but I will be able to talk about them over the next couple of weeks. So thanks for everybody tuning in and listening, and hopefully we're providing value to you.
Yes, guys, again, I say this every week, but seriously, if you guys have questions, reach out to me on Instagram at Derek Marash. You can see the handle right there. Shoot me a DM. Ask me questions you might want to ask Gary, right? Some weeks I'll be happy to do like a mini Q&A with Gary where I can present him some questions you guys might have so we can really make sure we're providing you value. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave a review. It really helps us get better. Please, please, please. We cannot stress that enough. And if you're watching this on YouTube, guys, subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Check us out on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube Shorts. We put clips out everywhere, and we're growing fast. We got some clips doing really well recently. 30,000 views, all this stuff. Ooh. And really excited, guys. A lot of
30,000? Which one got 30,000?
Yeah, on TikTok, you had a video. You were talking about something about scaling your team or hiring the right way. And I'll send you the video. It's really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't see that one. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I'll send it to you.
Good job, man.
Yep. Awesome, guys. Hey, thank you guys so much. Talk soon.